Good morning, this is Mr. Cranier. Benchmark 23, we're going to be covering it on trigonometry. In the last lesson, benchmark 21, we actually talked about Pythagorean theorem. Benchmark 22, we talked about special right triangles. Today, we're going to go ahead and talk about trigonometric ratios on how to solve the angle measures in right triangles. All right, good morning, this is Mr. Cranier. Benchmark 23, example number 3. This is estimate the measures using trigonometry. So the problem states, a fitness trainer sets the incline on a treadmill to 7 degrees. So here goes my 7 degrees. This is the angle that we're going to use. The walking surface is 5 feet long. So this is our walking surface. 5 feet long. Approximately how many inches? So we're talking about inches to feet. Did the trainer raise the end of the treadmill? So this is the end of the treadmill. Okay, the first thing you want to do in this case is convert feet to inches. So how many inches are in a foot? So we'll take 12 inches times 5. And I'll do some of the light work here. This is 5 times 12 inches. And so we'll get 60 inches. This is going to help us with finding out what the raise is of the treadmill. All right, now we want to go ahead and we want to use the trig ratios to try to figure out what the height of that treadmill is. So we're going to use, let's see, this is going to be my opposite side, and this is going to be our hypotenuse. Now, using the definitions for trig ratios, we got sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse. You have cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, and you got tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. I call this SOHCAHTOA. Now, what's given for us is the opposite and the hypotenuse. So we're going to go ahead and use sine. So sine 7 degrees is going to be my opposite. Okay. Over my hypotenuse. And then my opposite here is going to be y. And then my hypotenuse is going to be 60. So I'm going to set this up nicely. I want to go ahead and convert this into my degrees. So I'm just going to go on my calculator and type in sine 7. It's going to give me 0.129. I'm rounding that off. It's going to be equal to y equals 60. Okay, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and solve for y. So what I want to do here is I want to go ahead and multiply both sides by 60. Okay, so I'm going to go 60 times that sine 7. All right, the 60s will cancel out nicely. We're going to be left with y. And I'm just going to go on my calculator. I'm going to hit times 60. And I'm going to come up with about 7.31 inches for, that's how much we raised this treadmill off the floor. 7.31 inches for our opposite side. And if you have any questions on this example, let me know. Thank you. All right, good morning, Mr. Cranier. This is my favorite part of the guided practice. So now the instruction here is you're in construction, and the problem states the bottom of the handicap ramp is 15 feet from the entrance of the building. if the angle of the ramp is 4.8 degrees, about how high does the ramp rise off the ground to the nearest inch? A lot of setups here, so let's just go ahead. Let's have some fun with our ratios, and then I'll let you guys go ahead and complete this. So my ratio is sine, which is going to be your opposite over your hypotenuse. And you got your cosine of the angle, which is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. And then the last but not least, you got the tangent of the angle, of the acute angle, and that's going to be just definition opposite over adjacent. All right, using the information given, here's our acute angle that we're going to use. We want to figure out the height. This is going to be my x. So here goes my, you want to make sure you label what this represents, and then you want to label this, and you want to pick whether it's sine, cosine, and tangent. Let me know if you have any questions, and it should give you some immediate feedback. All right. So, Mr. Cornier again. We're going to continue our lesson on benchmark 23, trigonomic ratios. So here, in this pretty much key concept is our inverse of trig ratios. If angle A is an acute angle, and the sine of A is x, then the inverse of x is the measure of angle A. If sine A equals x, then the inverse sine is going to be sine inverse of your x value. Same thing with the inverse cosine. If angle A is an acute angle and cosine of A is x, then to get x by itself, you have to go ahead and do the inverse of cosine, which is cosine of -1. All right, for example number 4, our last example, we're going to use a calculator to find the measure of angle P. So let's go ahead. So you want to find out this angle right here. The first thing that I always do on any of the right triangles is that I label the values. So this is my opposite. This is going to be my hypotenuse. And this is going to be my adjacent, right next to the P. The only definition that has an adjacent and a hypotenuse is if I go over here on my little key, this is so adjacent and hypotenuse, so the only one that works is my cosine. So how I'll set this up is cosine angle P equals my adjacent, which is 13. So I'll write the definition out. Adjacent over hypotenuse. So we'll say cosine P. Adjacent is 13 over 19. And we need to figure out what that angle P is. So we're just going to go ahead and keep it real simple. To get P by itself, we're going to go opposite of cosine, really simple, cosine -1. That's the inverse of cosine. In parentheses, I'm going to drop in 13 over 19. I'm going to put all this in the calculator, and I'll be finished up. All right, so give me a second. There it goes, cosine, whoops. Second cosine, and I'm just going to put in 13 divided by 19, close that off. Got a wonderful number here, 46.83. So my angle P is going to be 46.83 degrees. All right. Have any questions? Please let me know, and I'll love to answer that for you. All right. Thank you. Bye. Back. This is benchmark 23, trigonomic ratios, Mr. Cranier. I said it last time. I'll say it again. This is my favorite part of the lesson. This is your guided practice. I want to see if you understand what we've been doing in the last example. So let's go ahead. Let's work this out ever so briefly. And then if you have questions, once again, you can ask me in class. You can email me. You can look at the anchor chart. You can look at your notes. Get a good answer for this. Okay, so let's go through this. Use the calculator to find the measure of angle D. So you do not know what that angle is. All right, question mark. You can put an X down if you want on that. To the nearest tenth. What I will do first is I will label. Okay, and then number 2, I'll find out whether it's sine, cosine, or tangent. I'll figure out which ratio I'm going to use, trig ratio. Number 3, find the inverse of the ratio. Inverse. And then solve. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know. I like you guys a whole lot, so let me know.